There is a truth far stranger than fiction. That every choice you've ever made, every impulse you've ever followed or ignored, may not just influence your life, it may split it. Reality, as you know it, isn't a single thread. It's a vast, branching structure, a tree of possibilities. In the world of modern quantum theory, particularly the many worlds interpretation, this isn't just a poetic metaphor. It's a model with scientific footing. Every time a decision is made, a particle observed, or a probability resolved, a new world becomes real. Now here's where things begin to stretch the limits of what most people are willing to consider. You're not merely a passive passenger in this sprawling multiverse. You're the navigator, and the instrument you use to steer, your mind. In this video, we're not dealing with vague mysticism or speculative science fiction. We're going to uncover a framework grounded in both consciousness research and quantum principles. It's called the Multiverse Mindset, a method of thinking that repositions your awareness as a central force in shaping the path your life takes through countless possible realities. You'll learn how the focus of your attention can collapse possibilities into actual experiences. How to spot the key thresholds where your reality is about to shift. How to script new outcomes with precision. And how to tune your emotional frequency to match the version of life you truly want to experience. We'll cover 6 transformational concepts and techniques, each designed to help you train your perception, intention, and energetic output to master the art of shifting into more aligned realities. Whether you're intrigued by quantum mechanics or passionate about self-mastery, this material connects the dots between cutting-edge science and ancient inner knowledge. But be warned, this isn't passive information. These aren't theories meant for idle contemplation. What we're discussing today will challenge the way you see yourself. It will ask you to take full responsibility for your state of consciousness and recognize that your inner world is the control panel for the outer one. We begin with one of the most misunderstood yet powerful principles in quantum physics. The observer effect. Once you understand its implications, not as a concept, but as a daily practice, you'll realize you've been shaping reality all along, without even knowing it. The observer effect. How your attention bends reality. The idea that simply paying attention to something can alter its behavior might sound irrational at first, but it's not only rational, it's been proven. In quantum physics, there's a phenomenon known as the observer effect. In essence, particles behave differently when they are being measured. Electrons, for instance, move like waves until someone observes them. The very act of observation causes them to collapse into a fixed location, as if attention selects a single version of events from a sea of potential outcomes. Now here's the leap. The same principle doesn't just apply to subatomic particles. It applies to life itself. Your consciousness acts like a spotlight. Wherever you shine it, energy flows. Attention acts as a kind of magnet, drawing possibilities toward manifestation. In a multiverse filled with infinite versions of you, healthy, wealthy, struggling, joyful, lost, empowered, your attention functions like a selector switch. You don't create these versions from scratch. They already exist. You simply bring them into focus. But here's where things get truly interesting. Most people use their attention unconsciously. They worry, they rehearse worst-case scenarios, they focus on what's missing or broken. And then they wonder why those patterns seem to intensify. It's not superstition. It's mechanics. Just as observing a quantum particle forces it into a defined state, continuously observing your current limitations locks them into place. Let that settle in. Now consider this: what might happen if you redirected your attention, not once, not casually, but as a committed practice toward the outcomes you desire? Toward health, connection, abundance, creative flow? Over time, you would shift the probability field around you. Repetition and focused awareness would begin to bend your trajectory. Gently, then powerfully. This isn't magic. It's a natural consequence of consistency. Just as a camera lens sharpens whatever it's aimed at, your mind crystallizes whatever it habitually focuses on. So the question becomes, what are you watching? When you wake up in the morning, where does your mind go? Is it drawn to obstacles or opportunities? Do you mentally replay frustrations or reinforce gratitude? Are you studying the timeline you want or the one you're trying to escape? It's critical to understand that attention isn't neutral. It energizes, charges, it feeds. Now, let's talk about how to begin using this to your advantage, not in a once-a-week moment of meditation, but as a living, breathing habit of perception. The first step is mindful observation, not just of the outside world, but of your own internal states. Track your thoughts like a quantum scientist. When negative thought loops appear, don't resist them. Observe them without fusion. Observation alone begins the separation, and that separation allows choice. Next, begin setting conscious observation anchors throughout your day. These are simple, repeated touchpoints where you pause, take a breath, and bring your focus to the version of reality you're aligning with. This might be a mental image, a phrase, or a feeling. Choose one and repeat it throughout the day, at specific times or during ordinary tasks like walking or drinking water. These micro-observations begin to stack. Each one is like a tap on the tuning dial of your life. The more consistent the focus, the more real that version becomes, because you're feeding it with attention. Some might call this delusional, but delusion implies the absence of choice. This is intentional focus. You're not escaping reality, you're selecting from within it. When you understand the observer effect not as a quantum trivia point, but as a daily practice, your relationship to reality transforms. You stop reacting and start selecting. And from this point forward, you are no longer just watching reality. You are influencing it. In the next part, we explore how to recognize the signs that you're standing at the edge of a shift, the moments where timelines are most malleable, and your next move carries extraordinary power. There are moments in life that feel different, not just emotionally charged or memorable, different in texture. Time feels slippery. Thoughts become louder. You sense you're standing at the threshold of something. The air feels charged with meaning, but you can't explain why. These are what we call jump points. In the multiverse mindset, a jump point is a moment when your trajectory is more malleable than usual, a window of heightened influence. And the key to recognizing these moments is paying attention to their subtle, yet unmistakable markers. Let's start with the first and most common indicator, synchronicity. You see repeating numbers, like 1111 or 222. You hear a phrase in your head, and then someone says it aloud. You think about someone you haven't seen in years, and they suddenly message you. These aren't just coincidences to be dismissed as random noise. They're signals. Think of them as breadcrumbs from a more expanded version of yourself, nudging you toward a shift. The second marker is emotional intensity. You may experience a sudden burst of energy, excitement, anxiety, anger, or clarity that seems disproportionate to the situation. These emotional spikes aren't just mood swings. They're indicators of friction between your current trajectory and a parallel one that's pulling at you. Now, let's be very clear. Not every strong emotion is a jump point. The difference lies in awareness. At a jump point, the emotion feels charged with a kind of gravitational pull. It's not just about what you're feeling, but how compelled you feel to act, speak, or decide. And yet, often the exact path forward isn't obvious. It's as though something wants to shift, but it's still forming in the background. Another key sign, déjà vu. You know the sensation, that eerie recognition of something you feel you've already experienced. In a multiverse framework, déjà vu can be understood as a moment of overlap, where two similar timelines converge briefly. These glitches, rather than being meaningless anomalies, may be evidence that you're brushing up against a neighboring version of your life. There are also the quieter jump points. Not dramatic, not emotional, just potent. A walk in nature, a silent evening alone, a long look in the mirror where, for a split second, you feel free from the story of who you've been. These subtle openings are easy to miss, unless you're trained to notice them. So how do you respond to a jump point? That's the essential question. First, pause. Don't rush to act. Stillness in these moments is powerful. The default mode in our culture is to react, to move quickly. But at a jump point, clarity comes from presence, not speed. Second, engage in what we call reflective anchoring. This is a short inner ritual where you ask yourself 3 questions. What am I feeling right now? What version of me is this emotion aligned with? What outcome do I want to reinforce right now in this window? These questions aren't meant to be analyzed endlessly. Just answer them honestly in the moment. You'll begin to see patterns. You'll start to recognize which emotions pull you toward the version of reality you actually want, and which ones reinforce timelines you'd rather leave behind. Now, here's where the multiverse mindset becomes a daily discipline. You'll need a jump journal. This isn't a standard journal where you vent your feelings. It's a precision tool. Its purpose is to record moments when you sense the timeline shifting. You write down the synchronicities, the sensations, the choices you made, and most importantly, how you felt before and after those choices. Over time, this journal will reveal something remarkable. You'll start to see how certain states of mind precede noticeable changes in your life's direction. You'll identify which thoughts and behaviors act as gateways, and which ones close the door. Some people use colors in their journals. Red for high-voltage moments, blue for quiet intuition, green for emotional clarity. You can structure it however you like, but the principle remains. Track the jump points. Let's say you wake up feeling unusually alert. You feel compelled to take a different route to work. On that route, you meet someone who connects you to a job opportunity that radically upgrades your income and lifestyle. Most people would see that as luck. The multiverse mindset sees it differently. That alertness, that impulse to change course, that was the jump point. The interaction that followed was simply the effect. And here's the deeper layer. Most jump points aren't about external events. They're about internal permission. At some level, you allow yourself to shift. You release an old belief, a fear, a limitation, and suddenly the world reorganizes around your new frequency. Jump points are not accidents. They're invitations, opportunities to move from one version of you to another. But here's the key. They only become real when you respond to them consciously. This brings us to a powerful but often overlooked truth. Choice is a quantum event. Not every decision carries the same weight. Some are mechanical, what to eat, what to wear. But others carry enough energetic force to trigger a cascade of outcomes. The multiverse mindset trains you to recognize those decisions and treat them with reverence. When a jump point arises, it's not a call to be perfect. It's a call to be present. And from that presence, to choose intentionally. The technique, then, is twofold. First, awareness. Learn to notice the signs. Keep your jump journal. Treat moments of emotional intensity, synchronicity, or stillness as potential launchpads. Second, anchoring. In those moments, pause. Ask the 3 reflective questions. Tune into the version of you that aligns with the outcome you want. Then, and only then, make your move. Over time, these choices compound. You'll find yourself surrounded by new circumstances, new people, new opportunities. It won't be random. It will be the direct result of conscious navigation. And when you look back, the patterns will be undeniable. The moments that once seemed trivial will reveal themselves as pivotal. In a multiverse of infinite timelines, your awareness is the compass. And jump points are the open doors. Next, we move into the mechanics of scripting, where thought meets language, and where reality begins to take written form. Words aren't just tools for communication. They are energetic codes. Every sentence you think or speak sends a ripple through your internal and external world. This is not a poetic statement. It is a structural truth when viewed through the multiverse mindset. Every reality, every version of your life already exists in the quantum field. You are not fabricating realities from scratch. You are tuning into versions of yourself that already hold the qualities, outcomes, and emotions you desire. And one of the most direct tools for this kind of tuning is scripting. Think of scripting as a precision method for telling your consciousness where to focus. It's more than journaling, more than affirmation, and far more effective than casual daydreaming. Scripting is the structured act of declaring a new version of your life, in the present tense, and emotionally linking yourself to that version so deeply that the subconscious begins to accept it as real. But before you begin putting pen to paper, understand this. Scripting is not about reciting fantasy. It's about writing from alignment, not desperation. The difference is everything. To get started, you need to mentally position yourself not as someone wishing for change, but as someone anchored in the new identity. This isn't performance. It's clarity. Your scripting must always come from the version of you that already lives the reality you're choosing. You're not writing about them. You're writing as them. So let's break it down. Step 1. Clarity of vision. Before you write anything, get clear on what this version of you experiences on a daily basis. Go beyond outcomes like, I have more money, or I feel better. Drill into the details. Where does this version of you wake up? What are they wearing? What kind of conversations do they have? What does their calendar look like? Clarity is magnetic. Vague intentions create vague results. Now take a breath. Slow everything down. Ask yourself, what does the world feel like through their eyes? Let that version rise to the surface. And then begin. Step 2. Present tense declaration. Write as if your desired reality is happening now. Do not write, I want or I will. Those phrases place your goal in the future, permanently out of reach. Instead, write things like, I wake up feeling rested and clear. My body feels light, strong, and balanced. Opportunities flow to me with ease. I handle them with confidence. People around me reflect back the love and respect I carry within. Notice the tone. Calm, certain, unapologetic. This isn't emotional begging. It's conscious alignment. Step 3. Sensory and emotional anchors. To activate a script fully, you must pull in more than facts. You must include feelings and sensory detail. Let's say your goal involves relocating to a new city and starting a creative business. You wouldn't just write, I run a successful business in a new city. That's flat. Instead, I walk through cobblestone streets each morning, coffee in hand, as sunlight warms my face. My studio feels alive with creativity. The scent of fresh paint, the buzz of clients excited for what's next. I breathe it all in, feeling fully aligned and powerful. Now we're talking. Now the subconscious has something to work with. The subconscious doesn't respond to logic. It responds to repetition, imagery, and emotion. By incorporating those 3 elements into your script, you send out a strong signal, one that starts reshaping internal belief structures and drawing external opportunities to match. Step 4. Emotional calibration. Here's a vital nuance. If your scripting feels forced, if it triggers anxiety or doubt, you're not ready to fully embody that version yet. And that's okay. The solution is calibration. Instead of scripting something that feels too far away, soften the intensity and step closer incrementally. Instead of, I'm a millionaire with global influence, try, I manage my money with clarity, and abundance shows up in surprising ways each week. This isn't scaling down your dream. It's strengthening your signal. When your script matches your emotional baseline, it creates resonance, and resonance attracts results. Over time, as your confidence grows, you increase the voltage of your scripting. You move from believable upgrades to expansive quantum leaps. Step 5. Repetition and ritual. A single script, written once, has minimal impact. The power comes in repetition. Not blind repetition, but consistent, intentional revisiting. Set a dedicated time daily or weekly to write or reread your scripts. This isn't about forcing change. It's about soaking your mind in the language of the life you're selecting. Pair this ritual with a specific cue, a certain chair, a scented candle, a soundtrack. Over time, your brain begins to associate those cues with transformation. Neural pathways begin to shift. Emotional resistance softens. You begin to think and feel as if you already live that way. That internal shift is the true catalyst. From it, actions emerge, not out of strain but out of alignment. You naturally take steps the old you would resist. You spot synchronicities others overlook. You open your mouth and speak truths you once withheld. This isn't luck. It's structural. You've shifted timelines by shifting identity, and scripting is what made that identity real. Common mistakes to avoid. Scripting from lack. If your script feels like emotional compensation for what's missing, pause. Get back to stillness. Reconnect with gratitude first. Overscripting. You don't need pages of detail every day. A focused, emotionally rich paragraph can shift more than 10 pages of wishful thinking. Neglecting review. Revisiting your past scripts will show you how much you've changed. Highlight old scripts where things you once wrote have now become your reality. This builds trust in the process. The deeper purpose. Beyond outcomes, scripting does something far more important. It reorganizes your self-concept. It reminds you that you're not a fixed personality. You are fluid, responsive, and evolving. And the act of scripting is not just creative, it's directive. You're not asking the universe to bring you something. You're telling your system, this is who I am now. Adjust everything accordingly. You'll know it's working when your external world begins echoing the language you wrote down weeks ago. When people start saying things you've been scripting. When events unfold with uncanny alignment to your words. That's not confirmation bias. That's signal synchronization. And here's the final truth. You've been scripting your entire life. Every time you repeat a story about who you are, what you deserve, or what's possible, you reinforce a timeline. Now, for the first time, you're doing it on purpose. In the next part, we move into the quantum mechanics of frequency, and how tuning your emotional state is the key to shifting faster, smoother, and with far more stability. Everything in the universe is vibrating. Every object, every cell in your body, every thought you think, all of it carries a frequency. This isn't a metaphor, it's physics. In quantum terms, your external reality is shaped not by your effort, not by your intention alone, but by your frequency, the energetic signature you emit consistently. You're not just living in a world of solid things. You're immersed in a field of vibrating potential, and what you attract or repel is dictated by your state of resonance. Now, let's bring this into practical terms. Think of your personal frequency as a broadcast signal. It includes your emotional baseline, your subconscious beliefs, your dominant thoughts, and even your self-image. And this signal determines which version of the multiverse you lock into. A person vibrating at the level of fear, guilt, or scarcity will experience a life path that reflects those states. Not as punishment, but as reflection. The field responds to what you radiate, not what you wish for. This is where many people get stuck. They hope for one outcome while vibrating with the frequency of its opposite. And then they wonder why things don't change. Here's the core principle. You must tune yourself to the version of reality you want to experience before it shows up. Let's examine what that means. Suppose there's a version of your life where you feel deeply fulfilled, financially free, creatively expressed, and surrounded by loving people. That version has a frequency. It's not an idea. It's a state. If you want to experience that version of reality, your job is not to chase it. Your job is to match it. So how do you do that? Let's start with emotional frequency. Emotions aren't just reactions. They're also generators. When you feel appreciation, confidence, joy, or love, you're raising your vibration. These elevated states carry more energetic coherence. And in the quantum field, coherence equals power. This isn't about pretending to feel good when you don't. It's about learning how to generate higher frequency emotions intentionally, regardless of your current circumstances. That's vibrational hacking. Begin with this daily calibration exercise. 1. Frequency scan. Each morning, pause for a moment before starting your day. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Is this emotion aligned with the life I want to experience? What is one shift I can make right now to elevate my frequency? This might be as simple as playing music that lifts your mood, stepping into sunlight, or taking a few conscious breaths. Small shifts compound. The point is to interrupt autopilot and reclaim your state. 2. Create a frequency menu. Write down 5 activities that consistently elevate your emotional state. They might include movement or dance, meditation or breath work, spending time in nature, engaging with inspiring content, creating art or music. This becomes your toolkit. Use it daily, especially when you feel off course. You're not fixing anything, you're tuning your signal. Now let's talk about resonance. In the quantum model, resonance is the principle that frequencies in harmony will amplify each other, while discordant ones will repel. You've experienced this. When you're in a high-energy state, you attract conversations, opportunities, and synchronicities that feel aligned. When you're stuck in low frequency, it's like your whole world slows down or resists you. This is where vibrational integrity comes in. To shift your timeline, you must stop doing things that contradict the energy of the life you're selecting. That includes speaking in ways that reinforce limitation, engaging in relationships that drain you, consuming content that lowers your state, reacting from fear instead of choice. Every action you take either reinforces your current signal or disrupts it. There's no neutral. This isn't about perfection. It's about awareness. Once you know what drains your frequency and what strengthens it, your life becomes a game of alignment. Not in theory, in daily, deliberate practice. Let's go deeper with a technique called the frequency bridge. This is a visualization-based hack where you link your current self to the version of you that already embodies the frequency you want. You don't try to become that version all at once. You establish resonance gradually. Here's how. Sit quietly for 5 minutes. Bring to mind the version of you who already lives the life you want. Don't focus on what they have, focus on how they feel. Let that feeling rise inside you. Now speak silently or aloud as that version. Use phrases like, "This feels natural to me. I'm used to this ease. I respond with calm power. I trust the unfolding." This practice isn't about pretending. It's about creating frequency overlap. When done regularly, your brain and body begin to habituate to the new state, and that new state becomes your dominant signal. Let's be clear. This is not a bypass. You will still have challenges, emotions, and old patterns to face. But your new frequency gives you access to new responses. You don't need to fight the old reality, you simply stop feeding it with energy. And here's the shift that surprises most people. When you focus on raising your vibration consistently, the need to force outcomes disappears. The struggle, the urgency, the anxiety, it all softens. Reality begins to respond differently. People treat you differently. Obstacles seem to rearrange themselves. Why? Because you're no longer in the same signal band. The multiverse mindset doesn't say you need to hustle harder. It says you need to tune smarter. So let's recap. Your frequency is a composite of your emotional state, thoughts, beliefs, and actions. High-frequency states create more coherence, which leads to faster alignment. You can shift your frequency through daily rituals, conscious triggers, and pattern interruption. Resonance is the goal, not effort. Vibrational hacking is a lifestyle, not a fix. Most people try to change their outer world without shifting their inner frequency. That's like trying to change the channel by yelling at the screen. It doesn't work. You have to grab the remote, and the remote is your state of being. You may have goals. You may have dreams. But the life you want isn't waiting in the future. It's waiting at a different frequency. The fastest path to that life is not thinking more. It's feeling better. And maintaining that better feeling until it becomes who you are. This is not empty positivity. This is vibrational discipline. Your life doesn't respond to your plans. It responds to your energy. And when that energy becomes consistent with the reality you desire, the shift begins. Next, we explore one of the most advanced principles of the multiverse mindset: how to meet your parallel self and integrate their knowledge, identity, and momentum into your current trajectory. There's a version of you who has already figured it out. They've broken through the fear. They're living in alignment. The relationships, the health, the creative flow, the wealth, it's all active in their world. Not because they're better, not because they're luckier, but because they're vibrating on a different timeline. This version of you is not imaginary. It exists. And within the multiverse mindset, the goal is not to invent that identity, it's to connect to it. This is where the concept of parallel selves becomes more than a thought experiment. It becomes a tool. When used correctly, it unlocks access to quantum confidence, accelerated learning, and behavioral transformation. Here's the key insight. You are not a single self moving through time. You are a field of overlapping identities. Every choice you make, every new thought or belief, tunes you into a different version of yourself. These versions aren't metaphorical. They are real frequencies of consciousness, each with their own memory structures, habits, and outcomes. And just like you can tune a radio to a different station, you can shift into alignment with a self that lives at a higher level of coherence. But here's the catch: this version of you will not come to you. You must reach for them. And the way you do that is by initiating conscious contact. Let's walk through the process. Step 1. Suspend identification with the present self. You must temporarily loosen your grip on the you think you are. This doesn't mean abandoning your personality or faking something you're not. It means acknowledging that your current identity, your preferences, limitations, and habits, is not fixed. It's a habit of mind. Your current self is just one possibility out of billions. So pause, breathe, and say to yourself, the version of me I am today is one signal. I can tune to another. This opens the portal. Step 2. Initiate contact through visualization. Close your eyes. Slow your breath. Begin by setting a clear intention to meet a version of yourself who is already living the outcome you desire. Not thinking about it, living it. Visualize them clearly. Not just how they look, but how they move, how they breathe, how they carry their energy. Observe their environment. What kind of space surrounds them? Is it calm, energetic, modern, minimalist? Watch their posture. Listen to the tone of their voice. How do they greet people? How do they sit alone? You are not analyzing. You are tuning. Let this version of you show you something. A symbol, a phrase, a habit, a decision, anything they want you to receive. You're not imagining randomly. You're allowing information from another frequency to surface into your awareness. When you do this properly, you'll notice something profound. This version of you does not feel far away. They feel familiar, as if you've always known them, because in truth you have. Step 3. Integrate the identity. Contact is not enough. The power is in embodiment. This means bringing aspects of that parallel self into your current behavior. Start small. If your parallel self wakes up earlier, speaks with more certainty, or dresses a certain way, begin there. You're not playing pretend. You're installing an update. Every small act of mimicry builds neurological bridges between you and that version. Over time, the new behaviors no longer feel artificial. They feel native. The new identity takes root. This is not instant, but it is inevitable if you're consistent. And as you integrate more of that parallel self, your environment begins to mirror it. People treat you differently. Opportunities shift. Internal resistance weakens. Because you're no longer aspiring to change, you've already made the switch. Step 4. Dialogue with the self. Here's where it gets even more powerful. Begin a written dialogue between your current self and the parallel self. Literally write both voices. One voice expresses current doubts, fears, limitations. The other, your higher timeline, responds with clarity, wisdom, and decisiveness. Over time, the second voice will grow stronger. Your mind begins to generate new neural patterns that reflect the intelligence of your expanded self. You stop seeking advice from outside and start channeling it from within. Ask this version of you, what do you no longer tolerate? What did you let go of that changed everything? What do you do daily that keeps you aligned? How do you respond to setbacks? Their answers will be direct, not abstract, because this version of you operates from a place of clarity, not confusion. You'll begin to recognize that the you, who used to feel so far away, is now the dominant voice inside your mind. That's not fantasy. That's identity convergence. Step 5. Anchor the new timeline with repetition. This isn't a one-time interaction. You must return to this version of you repeatedly, especially when your old patterns try to reclaim ground. Anchor your new self through posture, voice tone, micro-decisions, environment adjustments, new routines. You are not changing because of effort. You are changing because you are now remembering who you were all along. And here's the secret. Every time you embody that self, even briefly, you send a signal into the quantum field. That signal doesn't go unnoticed. It begins to restructure probability. People show up differently. Doors that were once closed begin to open, not by force, but by resonance. There will be moments where your old identity pushes back. It will whisper, "This isn't you. You're pretending." That's normal. That's the echo of a former version trying to stay relevant. Smile at it, thank it, and return to the frequency of your chosen self. You'll know this process is working when your decisions begin to surprise you in a good way. You feel less triggered by the same circumstances. You speak more clearly and listen more deeply. Your environment begins to reflect your inner shift. You've aligned with a different self. And in doing so, you've stepped into a different timeline. So don't ask, how do I become that version of me? Instead, affirm, I'm already tuning to them, and they're responding. This is not a theory. It's not a metaphor. It's a shift in internal bandwidth. And with each repetition, you get stronger, clearer, and more aligned. This is how the multiverse bends. Next, we move into the final and most integrative part of the multiverse mindset: how to consciously select and lock in the timeline that reflects your deepest intention. There comes a moment where all the awareness, techniques, and identity work must do something more than inform you. It must reorganize your trajectory. This is the moment of selection. You are standing in front of an array of possibilities. Each one is a version of your life already active in the quantum field. You are not asking whether it exists, you are deciding whether to align with it. This isn't a vague hope or a passive wish. It is a conscious command issued from a place of clarity. Timeline selection is the art of choosing your reality through consistent energetic agreement. This agreement is not made with words alone. It's made with belief, behavior, and environment, all aligned with the frequency of your chosen outcome. Let's be precise. Selecting a timeline means withdrawing energy from all others. It means closing the tabs, silencing the internal arguments, and cutting the cords to the narratives that don't serve your chosen version. You are not just focusing on what you want, you are actively ceasing to reinforce what you don't. This requires more than desire. It requires discipline. Here's the structure. Step 1. Identify the dominant timeline candidates. Begin by examining the timelines currently available to you. This isn't about fantasy. It's about real energetic options that match your thoughts, habits, and emotional baselines. You'll usually notice 3. Default timeline. This is where you're headed if nothing changes. It's shaped by routine, fear, self-doubt, and inherited beliefs. It feels familiar but stagnant. Elevated timeline. This version contains breakthroughs, alignment, and embodiment of your higher self. It's rich in purpose, clarity, and flow, but it may feel just out of reach. Distorted timeline. This is the version shaped by desperation, escapism, or avoidance. It often looks shiny but feels unstable. It's reactive, not resonant. Your job is to acknowledge all 3 and reject 2. Why? Because indecision is fragmentation, and fragmentation weakens your signal. If you want to move powerfully into your desired timeline, you must collapse your focus around it completely. That means declaring, "This is the path I choose, and everything else is noise." Step 2. Use quantum intention. Quantum intention is different from goal setting. It's not about forcing an outcome. It's about tuning your entire being to the vibration of your selected reality. This begins with a declaration not to others but to yourself. Write this down. Complete the sentence in your own words. I now align with the timeline where This is your signal to the field. Not because the words have power, but because you do when fully coherent. Now repeat this declaration every day, but not mindlessly. Say it when you feel aligned. Say it when you feel grateful. Say it while feeling the energy of your chosen reality already alive within you. Each time you say it with emotion and belief, you strengthen the signal. Each time you say it with doubt, you weaken it. Step 3. Environmental synchronization. Your environment either supports your selected timeline or pulls you back to the old one. Audit your space. Does it reflect who you're becoming? Does it activate clarity, energy, and focus? Or does it reinforce your past self? This isn't about aesthetics. It's about resonance. Surround yourself with cues that mirror the new identity. This might include books that expand your vision, objects that carry emotional or symbolic power, art that evokes the frequency of abundance, peace, or mastery, removing items tied to versions of you that no longer serve. Remember, you can't step into a new timeline while living in the museum of your old one. Step 4. Behavioral lock-in. Now comes the most overlooked step: action. You do not wait to feel ready. You act from the new self as if it's already normal. Not to impress, not to test, but to install. Start small. Answer emails the way your aligned self would. Walk and speak with their confidence. Structure your day based on their priorities. Eat and rest in alignment with their standards. Each action is a vote for your timeline. And here's the nuance. These actions will feel unnatural at first. That's not resistance, that's evidence of the shift. Don't interpret discomfort as failure. Interpret it as your nervous system catching up. Over time, those actions begin to feel normal, then easy, then essential. This is not self-help. This is quantum entrainment. Step 5. Feedback without collapse. Here's where many slip. You begin selecting your timeline. You act in alignment. But then life throws contrast. An old pattern resurfaces. A person reflects your past self. A setback occurs. In these moments, don't collapse. Don't say, "It's not working. That's a different timeline trying to reclaim you." Instead, say, "This is residual energy. It's leaving because it no longer matches me." Respond accordingly, not reactively. This reinforces your new alignment and neutralizes the old charge. Step 6. Quantum Shift Protocol. Let's now integrate this into a full daily routine: the timeline reinforcement loop. Morning calibration. Recall your chosen timeline. Feel the emotion of already living it. Repeat your declaration. Micro-actions. Take 2 to 3 small actions from that identity early in the day. Midday audit. Ask, am I still aligned? What would my higher self shift right now? Evening alignment. Reflect. What did I do today that matched my new timeline? What's one upgrade I'll bring tomorrow? This loop turns desire into dominance. It builds momentum, and momentum bends probability. The more you reinforce the structure, the more natural it feels. Not because you forced a result, but because your internal consistency became louder than the noise of the old self. This is where shifting becomes stable, sustainable, inevitable. You're no longer sampling realities. You're inhabiting one, and soon people around you begin to notice. You've changed. You feel different. You're lucky these days. They're not wrong, but they're also missing the truth. This isn't luck. It's selection. In the final part, we bring everything together. You'll understand how all 6 parts of the multiverse mindset integrate, and what it truly means to become the living bridge between imagination and physical reality. You are not bound by the linear story you've been living. You are not limited by your past, your genetics, your environment, or your history. Those things are real, yes, but they are versions, not destinies. In this moment, with full presence, you now know your mind is the multiverse. Not separate from it, not peering into it like an outsider. You are woven into it. Every thought you have, every feeling you sustain, every action you choose, they are not random and they are not small. They are structural forces that select timelines, stabilize trajectories, and open doors that didn't seem to exist just a moment ago. Now let's take a breath together and look back at where you've traveled in this framework. You've learned that your attention doesn't merely observe the world. It shapes it. The observer effect showed you that focus is not passive. It is a builder. Every time you notice something, give it weight, feed it emotionally, and talk about it, you are reinforcing it. The shift began when you recognized you can shift that focus at will. Then came the jump points, the thresholds of transformation that show up disguised as intuition, emotion, synchronicity, déjà vu. You now recognize these moments not as anomalies, but as signals, opportunities to either repeat or reselect. And when you pause long enough to choose with clarity, you gain quantum momentum. From there, you took your first tool into hand, scripting, but not as an exercise in fantasy, as a declaration of energetic alignment. You wrote from the version of yourself who already lives the life you're selecting, not someday. Now, the paper was just the beginning. The script became your new internal voice. And then, with vibration, you took it further. You began to understand that frequency is not just an idea. It's the magnet for your reality. That your state is not something to fix when broken, but something to cultivate daily. With sound, movement, breath, light, focus, and discipline, you learned how to stabilize your field so your results could stabilize too. Then came the great leap, the invitation to meet the version of you who already lives at your highest expression. The one with clarity, alignment, and embodiment. And rather than idolize them, you merged. You listened. You mimicked. You began to think like them, respond like them, walk and speak like them, until your cells remembered, ah yes, this is also me. And finally, you learned that the shift isn't complete until you lock it in. Timeline selection was the moment of commitment, the cutting away of all other options, the energetic monogamy to a new path. You anchored your environment, habits, and actions to the new frequency. You learned to override noise. And most of all, you began to trust your signal. So here you are, not just informed, but transformed. But make no mistake, this is not a finish line. There is no finish line. That would imply the journey ends. In the multiverse, every shift leads to another. The growth is infinite. The possibilities are infinite. And so is your ability to move among them. But let's bring it down to something simple. This is no longer just about the quantum field, alternate timelines, or physics. This is about how you show up tomorrow morning. That moment when you open your eyes and your old thoughts try to pull you back into the familiar. That is the moment of power. Will you shift? Will you observe something new? Will you charge the next moment with deliberate emotion? Will you speak like the self you've chosen? Will you act before you feel ready, not to prove something but to tune your frequency? That's where the multiverse mindset becomes real. Not in videos, not in theories, but in the mundane moments that decide your trajectory. Every word you say is a script. Every choice you make is a vote. Every emotional reaction is a signal sent. So the question becomes, what reality are you voting for right now? You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to shift everything overnight. You just need to stay aware, stay willing, and stay aligned with the version of yourself who doesn't question the shift anymore. They live it. They breathe it. They trust it. That version is not distant. They're close. They're listening. And every time you choose love over fear, clarity over confusion, presence over reaction, they move closer. Eventually, there will be no separation at all. You'll wake up one day, and the life that once felt like a stretch will feel like home. Because you didn't force it. You selected it. This is how the multiverse responds. Not to need, not to noise, but to resonance. And now you know how to generate it. Not once, not occasionally, but consistently. So take this framework with you. Review it. Revisit it. Teach it. Use it not just for yourself, but to lift others. Because the more people who think this way, not just optimistically but structurally, the more the collective timeline begins to shift too. You've just rewritten your part in this story. And you've opened the door to help others do the same. Not as a guru, not as a teacher, as a mirror of what's possible when consciousness becomes coherent, when energy becomes intentional, and when identity becomes chosen. Remember, you are not the byproduct of circumstance. You are not here to chase reality. You are here to select it and transmit it through who you are. So now, as we close this framework, the question isn't whether the multiverse is real. The question is, how real are you willing to let it become in your life? That answer is already forming, and reality is already responding.